Okay, thank you very much. This is a program which we keep repeating every 3 4 months because I think it is the most important program which I hold throughout the year. Because unless we understand how to do market research, we cannot progress in any way in the exports field. Most of the time, when I used to hold programs at the campus in pre COVID times, very few people I found has shown any great interest in going to the market research area, the tools which I have shown, and practice it. Because unless you practice them, you will forget about them. And after 3 months, 4 months, again, you will, when there is a need to go, you will find it difficult to, link the whole process. So my advice is that once you go home, please do practice it for several hours over a week, maybe an hour a week or so, and see whether you are able to identify the information and download whatever you are attempting to do. So now we will go and now we will go and look at some of the common tools which we use in trade information, and hopefully you will receive a copy of this presentation. No need to keep notes, and later on you can use it to go further and check. In addition, we also hold a program every few months on searching on Google. It's a separate program. uh, so between two of them, if you join, you can have a fairly good knowledge of the whole thing. Why we need to find to market research, why we need to find information? Because when we go into the markets, we find that markets come with a variety of challenges, and unless we overcome those challenges, we can expect a very high risk of failure. The challenges may be you do not know the market, what is the potential of that market, should I invest your time and money in searching for markets, or whether you're where in the world can you sell your goods, where markets are rising, where particular products are declining. So many different things. Then lot of information comes with, if you decide to export, then what are the conditions of export. The marketplace is a very dynamic marketplace. It is changing every day. If you see the paper with Brexit, the entire EU market has changed. So you have to keep a close look for what are the various legislative or various regulatory changes which are taking place, which have implication on export of your products. Demand and supply, especially in the case of agricultural products, demand and supply can change very rapidly depending upon the weather conditions, carry forward of last year's stocks, demand in certain places, the suppliers, whether how many sources of suppliers are there, what is the competition. So this situation, especially in agricultural products, it changes very fast as compared to products like engineering products, where year to year weather conditions, climate, all these things have less of a issue. So since more than 30% of the merchant exporters deal with some sort of agricultural export, so it is very important that you have a clear idea of what is the current situation today. Payment is a very important issue. You must understand if you decide to go into a new market, what are the payment. For example, if you want to supply to Sudan, payment can take up to 15% of your total cost. So this is a very important area. So you should know what are the likely implications on all these matters, you know, and in any export field. So as you know, in a iceberg, you see only 20% of the iceberg which is visible. Almost 80% iceberg is not visible. Similarly with market information, what you see around you is only a fraction of what is. You have to dig deeper. You have to dive and dig deeper to find real information, because only with information you can make up your mind, you know. So starts with data. Data is nothing but a small piece of figure. For example, today's temperature is data. There is nothing I can do about it except to feel hot or cold. But if the same temperature is put in a uniform, in a form of information, for example, data is charted on year to year data, then I can say next year on in the month of or in the first week of February, we can expect 60, 70, 80% chance of same weather conditions. So when the data is converted to a information, your knowledge increases. But by information itself is not enough. You should also be able to do some action with it. There comes the insight. Now, data and information is something which is available in the environment. Your Google, libraries, newspapers, all these are sources of both data and information. But insight is your own. Using information, one person can say there is a market. One person can say, no, the market is not good. At the turn of the century, two salesmen were sent to Africa by a company in England. They both landed in Africa, and after doing a market survey, one of them telegraphed back that there is no market for shoes in Africa. Nobody wears shoes. The other salesman telegraphed to his office, there is tremendous market in Africa because nobody wears shoes. So insight is something which you draw from your experience, your education, and when it collides with the information and data, then your insight is there. Let me give one example and that will make it clear. So objective of market research is to find new markets, find new products which can be sold, expand the market share of your products, and manage the regulatory compliance in our target countries. So let me give a example that may make it clear. For example, let us say we want to launch an ethnic product. Ethnic product means Indian product. We have ethnic shawls, we have ethnic handlooms, handicrafts, we also have ethnic foods. Now I am a manufacturer of a range of food in Gujarat, and I want to see whether I can sell these foods abroad also. I am a ready to eat packaged food supplier. Let me see. So what I see first is I do the macro analysis. That means I see what are the trends in the world regarding food. Then I come to the trend regarding Indian food. I find that Indian food is ranked number 5 in popularity. And lot of research has come for food delivery during COVID. That means home delivery of ready to eat food, in which Indian food has scored very high, you know, uh, in some of the trends which I have seen. So once you understand that Indian food is globally ranked number 5 in popularity, in some countries it may be more like England, where there is a very long interaction with India. Some countries like Brazil, it may be less, but it is not unknown in any country. Similarly, just like you see, 5 years back, who had heard of Thai food? Who had heard of Mexican food? Today, even in small towns, you have taco and other types of Mexican snacks and food available. So same trend is outside, that we are getting more and more internationalized in our food habits. And this trend is taking our by the young generation. They are more experimental in taking up new food habits, in experimental with new food traditions or food I would say preparations. So with this trend, now I go deeper into the market and find that one of the most common meal in Japan is curry rice. In fact, in last several years, I am doing this program, and many times I ask my, participants, which is the number one meal in Japan. Nobody can answer correctly. Some people say it is noodles or something or the other. But curry rice is the most important form of meal in Japan. A average Japanese eats at least twice a week. I don't want to go into the curry history, but it was taken from India by British, and the British sailors took it to Japan, where they accepted the curry. And when Japanese soldiers went to Korea, when they occupied Korea, they also took their curry rice with them, and that introduced the curry rice in Korea. So both in Korea and Japan, curry rice is a very, very important form of meal. So there are more than 20,000 curry restaurants in Japan. Coco is the number one, and more than pasta restaurants. We think that Italian and pasta food is the most popular, but no. More people eat curry rice in Japan than pasta. So this is another source of information that has come our way. Now this source of information goes further. What kind of curry rice they eat? We cannot reproduce their rice in India. They use a different rice. But we can do some tinkering with the curry to bring an Indian touch, because we know that Indian food is ranked number 5 in popularity, and also the young generation is experimenting with new food habits, and that data we have. If you go to the database, you will see number percentage this and percentage that and so many numbers and growth and all that. But this is the trend. So once we know that what kind of curry they eat, then when I go into the curry, I find that they eat a curry which is sweet and sour. It is not a Indian curry. Now they have adapted it to Japanese taste. So this is a curry which looks like there is some meat and some vegetables, and they also use lot of tofu in their curry. So with that in mind, we can now develop our insight what we can offer to Japan. Can we prepare a curry? Rice is not something which we can export from here, but curry, let us say curry and curry powder. What we can do which will give a distinctive Indian taste, but it will be acceptable to the Japanese, knowing that they use sweet and sour. So what we have is, we have a product called jaggery, gur. So gur powder is there. That provides the sweet touch. We don't use sugar. Sugar is bad for health, and so much more in Japan. So we substitute it with organic gur. The sweet and sour chutney. We have this tamarind paste. What we called you must have eaten in pani puri. They put a sort of a tamarind chutney what we called also sont. In North India, it is called sont. Now we have the ingredients. These ingredients, knowing that they don't like too much chili, but they do accept a little bit of chili. We have our uh, other type of spices, and now we can create a two or three or four or five different types of meals. And there is a 300 strong Japanese community in Ahmedabad, and there is a Japan center in AMA. So through the Japan center, if you invite a fraction of those people and let them try out your curry, you can know which curries are popular with them. And those are the curries which you can export to Japan. And next step is to take those curries to Foodex Japan, display them at our Indian stall. Indian stall invites lot of supermarket people, sourcing people, and you can also go and introduce these products into the Japanese market. Also use the e-commerce channel, and you can be the first to introduce Indian curry into Japan, which will be adapted to Japanese taste, but it will not be a Japanese curry. It will be an Indian curry. And that is your insight. Nobody can copy that. People can imitate it, but nobody can copy the ingredients, the way you have designed the whole experiment. Nobody can copy it, and that is your own insight. So we have used data information to create our insight, and with that insight we have created a range of products, and that can be go in snacks. There are so many now, even in Ayurvedic products, so many products are there. We will give a program probably in March on Ayurvedic product. You can see how you can adapt the Indian ingredients to foreign tastes. So there is a this if one continues with this kind of market research, the Indian, we can make processed food number one export item in India. There is so much raw material and so much insight available within the country. So taking our program a little further, now we understand that what is a data. What is data is nothing but a piece of figure. Today's temperature is a data. Price of rice today is data. Price of rice or export price of basmati rice in a table over last 5 years is information. Now we can see, we can project that information to see where we can go next year. Inside is which is your basmati rice, whether that has a potential or not. That is your insight, your packaging, your way of processing. These are all your insights. So knowledge is the key to export. Today it is very easy to become an exporter. The field is full. Amazon itself has shown how easy it is to export. Today over 70,000 Indian sellers are there on Amazon Global, which are exporting $1 billion of goods to 5 countries. And the Amazon company, and that is only B2C. B2C is a separate market in which you can sell through Amazon. And Amazon expect $5 billion worth of sale by 2025. So this is a market where even a small person sitting here without any, but even there you need market research. Who else is selling on, how they are projecting their products, what are they writing about the products. All that is giving you certain information, but that is not insight. Insight is when you use that information to create your products, to create your narrative, that is your storyline, and go on the marketplace and put yourself in the market. So B2C, B2C e-commerce will double to $2,200 billion. And as we are seeing in India, China, and many other Asian countries, Japan, Korea, Africa also, African growth is about 16% per annum. Indian and Chinese growth is about 30% per annum. Unfortunately, no, very few people are selling in China. It is a very, very unfortunate thing. Primarily, it is lack of market research, and primarily, we do not know how to go about it, the facilitation part. Language, distance, no longer a bar. We are already talking uh, through video conferencing to customers everywhere. And now we can also do Google Translate. If you write a letter or you get a letter, you can do translation, simple translation, to see that your message is going through. So all these things are very much available today at your fingertips. So here, important thing is that you must seek out multiple sources of information. Don't rely on a single source of information, because information, when it comes from outside, it can have errors and you can make mistakes. Go to authoritative sources. That means as close to the source which has created that information. For example, Indian Customs, Indian Director General Foreign Trade, United Nations. So these are the sources where information is directly created, or in foreign countries, sources of South African government, Kenya. So many authoritative sources are there which give you information. So as long as you go to authoritative sources and not just rely on newspaper reporting. You must also see that besides your competitors in other countries, there may be local competition. For example, in Africa, more and more local competition is emerging. At one time, even 10 years back, they were importing everything from toothpaste to soaps. Today, it's not there, and tomorrow they may be producing more and more goods locally. So, market research is done to reduce the uncertainty in the market. The more you do the market research, more certain you are, and the more certain you are, the less risky the proposition becomes. Aim is to find information which you can use for the future. Always market research is done for the future before you have started selling, or before um, you want to expand to new territories. So everything is done in future. So you have to take every type of data is present, but your use is future. So you have to see that what you taking the data, how much is it accurate? Will it be the same next year? Will it be the same after 2 years? You know, COVID, etc. things will keep on occurring. So we have to be very careful and not be carried away by the strength of the market. So what to look for data? Data is trade data. That means how much export, product export, countries export to one country, export to one market, HS code. All these things are data. Information is country information, market for example, economic condition of the market, foreign exchange position, whether the country is in a position to pay, demographic data, what kind of middle class is emerging in particular markets, how the GDP is growing, how foreign companies are investing. All these are telling us whether the market is good or not. Which countries are attracting foreign capital. Now that is not that we want to invest there, but that tells us that if people are investing, that means they are investing for the long term. If people are setting up factories there or plant or distribution center, it is not for one consignment. It is for several years. So they see the future of that country over a medium term. So all these things are there, and we will now quickly go through one by one and see what are these sources. I hope everybody understand what is the HS code. I don't want to spend too much time on it. I hope people know that it is a code to identify any product which is acceptable to all the custom agencies in the. If you write HS code 30, all the 188 countries accept that it is pharmaceutical product. It does not matter in which language you have written. So we will not go too much time on it. You can go to Google and spend more time and check what is the HS code. We will spend a little more time now on the info. This is the most important source of information. That means trade between countries. It can tell you if you are a rice exporter, who else is your competitor? Basmati rice, Pakistan is a competitor. What they export to what country, and sometimes at what price. That data also comes in commodities. Price data is also there because they will tell you total value of export and total volume of export. So if you divide value by volume, you know the average price of per ton of that commodity which was exported in a particular year. But that does not tell you anything because commodities price change with seasons and with different countries coming into the market at different times. For example, if you are a exporter of pomegranate, anar, you know that some 12 to 15 are major exporting countries in the world, but they don't all export at the same time. Different countries export at different times. Only India exports for 9 to 10 months in a year. Other countries don't export for more than 3 to 4 months in a year. So you know which months you can price it higher and which months you can expect a lower, more competitive price. So now what I will do, I will go into the trademark and show you how to get data from it. So this is a, you see, this is the first page of trademark. You can do your login here. You can create your login. If you are from India and other developing nation, there is no payment. You can do it free of cost. If you log in, it will give you up to 6-digit data. If you don't log in, it will give you up to 4-digit data. So just now I will tell you only up to 4-digit, but later on you can also go up to 6-digit data. Up to 8-digit it cannot say because then last 2 digits are given to any country to devise their own. If there is a product from a country which is exclusive to that country and for which no number is available, it can create a number like khadi. Khadi we have created a separate number. So similarly, for any other goods we can do that. Within textiles, khadi has a separate code. Now it tells you this is the HS code, this is the country or region. It can be a single product, it can be a group of products, it can be a product, it can be a service. So service exports are also here. And here we let us go and see a country. Let us put a country, Kenya. Kenya has appeared. So we click here and now Kenya data is there. We want the data on annual basis. So we come here. These are available only if you log in. Sometimes you can also get certain products, certain companies which are importing that data also you can get here. Who are the big importers of a particular products in Turkey, in Kenya? So let us say Kenya, and we come to yearly time series. Now it is telling you Kenya to all products. Now it is giving you data for last 5 years. All products, $17 billion was their import. Highest import was mineral fuel, that is gasoline, petrol and diesel. Then machinery, mechanical products, electrical. And then you see it number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Number 9 is 30. We see pharmaceutical product is number 9. It is important for us because when we see India's data, it will become number 1 or number 2. Now let us see what about Kenya's import from India. So we use India's data as a partner. We want the data in these two countries. So Kenya's imports from India, now the data has changed. You see, pharma has become number 2. This is Kenya's imports from India and Kenya's imports from the world. This will tell you who are your other competitors. When you go and drill data into a particular product, you can see where they are importing from. Then what you can do, you can see data from a particular product. This is all the HS code. Now, these are all mostly fresh food and dairy products. Then we go to, let us say, go to pharma products. So we see Kenya 30, pharma products half $1 billion, almost like $500 million it has imported. And from where it has imported? Now we are seeing by product, and we go to the country. You see, India is number 1. Almost 50% of the Kenya's imports of almost 50% of Kenya's imports of medicine products come from India. And next biggest is Germany, which is almost 12% of India's export. Now this is just one country, but many countries group together to form customs union to make bigger markets. For example, Kenya is a member of East African Community, that is a group of 5 countries which common customs tariff and common rules. That means you can export product to Mombasa port in Kenya or Dar es Salaam port in Tanzania. You can expect the same treatment, and from that you can export product into all these 5 countries. So that gives you a bigger market of 5 countries, and that data also you can see. Country group, let us say we want East African Community. East African Community. Now all this has gone. You see these 5 countries now. Actually there are 6 countries now. Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda, Rwanda, Burundi. Now South Sudan has also become a member of East African Community, but probably that data has yet to appear. So you see, when you come to East African Community, from $500 million import, now it has gone 3 times, $1.4 million. So it's a bigger market. That means internal borders have gone. So that is a market which you should seek, that within that $1.4 billion, now you can exploit that market as a single market, from where you should enter, who should be your distributor, how you should go about it. All these things are part of your information. So this starts from, this is only data. This is no longer information. It is only data. Use that data now to create information. You want to export to Kenya. Now you go to Kenya and find out more information from this data. Now, this data can tell you so many things, whether the market is increasing, decreasing, at what rate is increasing, within that market, which countries are giving you. Now, these things you can calculate, you know, without any problem. So you will come to growth of the markets, that how which of the markets are growing. So as you do your homework, you will find more and more uh, greater, you can say, control over the information, that and that will create a more confident exporter. Now you can say that I want to enter Kenya, but another exporter may say Kenya is a very, very tough competitive country. Let me enter through Rwanda. Rwanda is only one-fifth the market of Kenya, but I will find fewer uh, competitors there, and through Rwanda, I can then re-export my products to the 5 countries without any additional duty. So different exporters will find different insights into as you go deeper into the market. Sometimes it may be advantageous to move through a smaller country. Today, Rwanda is a it is small but very fast developing. And within Africa, this East African community is the fastest developing. It is more prosperous. It has a very high GDP, and it is the most, I would say, politically stable group of countries within the African nation. Now, similarly, you can, you know, all these things are possible. Not very various types of, you can even change the currency. Immediately it will, let us say, change it to euro, change it to Indian. Indian may not be there. Let us see. Indian currency is not there, but you can change it to euro and several other currencies. So lot of, similarly, you can go to export data. You can also go to re-export data. That means products which are re-exported from one country to another country, like Dubai, Singapore. They are mostly re-exporting their products. They are not consuming it within the country. So like that, you spend some time on knowing the nitty-gritty of this. Let us take another product. Let us take uh, fresh vegetables. Country is, let us take Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia. So we are number 3 exporter into the, but a lot of export from UAE may also be Indian exports, which are being redirected to Saudi Arabia. As you know, they all 6 countries are part of Gulf Cooperation Council, which is again a single tariff market, just like East African community. So once you import into UAE and pay the duty there, you can further export to any of the 5 countries. Now, this is a something which you will have to. Now, you can also see. Now, this is Egypt data for imports of vegetables. Now you will not find India there because Egypt is too far off for Indian companies to export fresh vegetable, but certainly dried and frozen is there. Once you go and log in, then this also opens, you know, and there you can see which are the Egyptian importing companies which are importing fresh vegetables. What are there? So similarly, you can see for textiles, you can see for uh, you can see for textiles, you can see for auto components, for any product, you can see which countries they are importing and which are the importing companies, their addresses and their websites they can see. It is not a complete information. Whatever this has come to the attention of these compilers, but still it is a way to go forward. So I hope you have reached a place where you can. Now I will go a little faster. So this is trade map. Similar data you can get from Indian government sources. You see, but for only for Indian products. Here at India Trade Portal, you can get data about India's relations with other countries like free trade associations, what are the tariff rates, etc. And you can calculate India's preferential tariff, for example, in certain countries like Mercosur, etc. We have been given tariff advantages up to 10 to 15% compared to other countries because we have given the same reciprocal arrangement with those countries. So Mercosur countries, which includes Brazil, etc., Argentina, Brazil. So you can see what are the products which has been given preferential treatment. Then country information. This is, for example, I don't want to go into all the countries and details. We will only take some countries. This is Canadian information. You can see, and you can through this you can see export and import companies. You can also put your company's profile here if you want to importers to see your products. You can see. So like that you can go, and similar services available in most of the advanced countries. You will not find this kind of service from smaller countries like Kenya or Indonesia. They don't have the funds. The government agency don't have the funds or to produce this kind of database or this kind of information. But certainly in European countries, in US, Canada, you can do that. Then trade promotion agencies, for example, UK, USA, Germany, European Union, the the trade promotion agencies which are entrusted with the trade promotion of that country, they also produce a lot of information. Same information you can also use. What the information which UK government is providing for Iran for their own exporters, you can also download and use the same information. It is available to you. Similarly, this is German agency, German import markets newsletter. You can it's a free membership. If you want to export to Germany, you can become. Then they also, GTAI also produces certain booklets, for example, food and beverages industry in Japan. So a lot of data is there for both for import and export agencies. And you can see these are free data, so there is no harm in seeing this data, whether the exporting market which you are targeting, whether they have these kind of reports. See their government agencies and see what kind of database they have. This is the database of United States government. You see, these are top market. These are on 16 different markets. One market, for example, could be automotive is there, and similarly for various other products. It does not give for all the products, but 16 products for it to help US exporters for auto components. But Indian auto components can also use this data and see, because our government does not produce in great, even I have seen that the export promotion agencies database in India, not all of them are equally proficient. Some of them good information, some of them good put very, very old, and a lot of information is not available. For example, CBI is, this is the import data, automotive parts and components, what is the market in various European Union countries, what are the conditions, what kind of standards and regulatory environment is there, or rules and regulation which you have to comply. Then again, lot of agencies put up lot of country information. For example, this is from Ernst & Young, business and investment guide of the country. It will tell you whether the country's macro economic data is good, its GDP is high, or it has foreign exchange, it is exporting a lot of goods, and its people are working outside and sending remittances, so it has the money to pay for the imports. All this data you can get. For Myanmar, as you know, the army has taken over, and we do not know what would be position tomorrow. So one has to be very, very active on the database and see within various countries what is happening. This is the US data which I showed in last slide. This is two reports on one in China auto market, one in total auto markets, uh, automotive parts market. Then sector information. Why we put sector information? Because that will tell you what to export. What is the growth of the textile industry in Ethiopia? That will tell you whether to export textile chemicals. Over 2000 chemicals are there for textile processing, and you can decide that whichever industries is growing, they are the places where you can sell your products, like textile machinery, bobbins, and even services can be exported in Ethiopia. For example, many countries like Nigeria, Kenya, they are developing their textile industry. They have lot of cotton, and that is the basis of their industry. And much of the these products are exported because they have free tariff in USA, European Union. Their exports go free of tariff. So lot of companies, Indian companies, have also put up their plants in these countries. Whole of sub-Sahara Africa export to US, EU is free of tariff. Then different, this is the Indonesian automotive country. They have also, now this will tell you which are the products which are being imported, which they want to now find ways to manufacture in the country, like that. Then investment banks like or international consultant, they also bring out reports like McKinsey reports. This is Ernst & Young. Saudi Arabia beyond oil. Many people may not know that Saudi Arabia is the world's biggest exporter of aluminium today. 10 years back, it was not there, but today. So lot of countries, their export and import environment is changing. They are now exporting in by 2030 or 25, you will see same thing happening in Africa. More and more countries will be producing things like pharmaceutical production. Most, as we are seeing, India is number one. 2030, it may not be there. Kenya may have its own pharma industry. So instead of exporting pharmaceuticals formulation, it will create a market for exporting bulk drugs, pharma APIs, machinery, parts, services, consultants. So many things will markets develop over a period of time. Then investment agencies, every country has its own investment agencies, and they also bring out reports. That means they want investment in these particular industries. That tells you which are the industries likely to grow on this country, and can you export intermediate products to support those industries. For example, Ethiopia is a very big exporter of cut flowers. Kenya is a big exporter of tea, and so they have a market for agrochemicals and other inputs. Like that, Brazil also is India's biggest market for agrochemicals because it's a huge exporter and producer of agricultural products. So when they say that come and invest in our food processing industry, it tells you that that is the area where we can export our intermediate products. Then our export promotion councils are also, as I said, they are not very good at up to date. Most of the reports you will find they are cut and paste from newspapers and things like that. And I am not very impressed by this. Farmexcel, yes, it does produce certain things. EPC also produces some good reports. Then FICCI, etc., they also produce reports. And if you keep track, you can download these reports. And Exim Bank also produces reports, but as you know, their latest report is 2000. Within this period, AMA, I mean, I have written 2 additional reports on Bangladesh, and one of these was released, and we had a webinar also last year. So we have produced 3 reports in 5 years, while Exim Bank has produced only 1 report. So it's not that 215 report is useless, but you must know that that is a little historical data, and wherever it is important, see whether you can get a little recent information. But otherwise you can use this report to see an overall picture. Then B2B, very important, there are B2B sites like West African, for example. This is a this is an African uh, database which you can download in XLS also, which gives you import and export names, numbers, telephone numbers, website, etc. Then trade magazines, many of them are free of cost. They also tell you, for example, casting data, which countries are reducing their production of casting. It's an environmentally hazardous process. Which countries are increasing, like India? Forging, what are the new technologies available? What is the data of particular industries? The newspapers and magazines, for example, this is a Nigerian newspaper, this is a Brazil newspaper, same thing, automatic translation into English. So many of these things you can get English translation. The important thing is that you should keep a track of demand supply on a regular basis. As I said, in agricultural, this is a news which I saw just now, that last year Poland had a lowest onion production in 31 years. Now it is a big supplier to European Union, and that tells you that in the absence of Polish products, can we push our um, dehydrated onions into the European market? So all these things are information are useful on a day-to-day basis. This is in general. I always go and read Financial Times and Economist on a weekly basis, Financial Times on a daily basis, to know overall picture of what is happening. If any significant thing has happened, it will be first covered here. Then trade websites, HSLV, Global Connections, etc. These are also places where you can get certain types of data. Then you can purchase certain types of information, but I would not suggest. Many of these sources are very, very expensive, between $2,000 and $5,000. But I have always told that group of people can, I mean, I may not be able to spend $2,000, but I can certainly spend 100, 150, $200. And if 10 people join together, we can buy a report. It is not such a difficult thing, provided people pool their resources together. You see, $10,000. Then AMA publication, I have myself written over 60 handbooks. These are of some very recent handbooks. And every month I conduct 3 programs. And most of the programs I write new book. I don't use the old data. Most of them time I am using new data, which has been published only in the last 1 year. So our reports are always very, very up to date, and you can buy these reports. They are very inexpensive, maybe 100 rupees from AMA. Then networking is very important. You see LinkedIn, Yahoo groups, and ethnic communities. There are so many Gujaratis living in US, Gujarati Samaj, and in eastern part of the African nation. In fact, you will find a Gujarati living almost anywhere in the world. Even I've seen some Gujaratis living on the island of Nauru, which has a total population of only 9,000. So they must have gone there, their ancestors must have gone 100 years, 150 years back, and somehow they landed up there and they set up some sort of a livelihood there. So these are the, you see, this is a very, very important source of information and also for collaboration. So don't discount your ethnic connection, you know. Then this is something, how to find email addresses, you know. I don't want to go into too much detail, time is running out, but you can try out. There are many sources, and you can also write through LinkedIn. First, find out who are the, if you have identified a company, find out who are the people who are buying products. It can be a sourcing agent, it can be a import, or it can be a market development manager or a VP. So those are the people. Once you have the name, go into Rocket Reach and see that company, what is the style of emails. So that will tell you that 90% of the people use this style. So this is the most common style of, and you can put your name also in the same style and send to the, if you cannot find it, my best is that there are only 6 types of names which are used by 99% of the commercial organizations. These are the 6. You can put your person's name in all the 6 and send and see which of the mail is being returned to you. Those are the incorrect one. The one which is not returned, that is the one which has gone to the, and you can note it down and send a reminder later on. So these are the various ways to, this is just a overview of the, and don't ignore the online marketplace. Thank you very much. And this presentation will be shared to you. And later on, we will also have a program on. One thing I forgot, I will tell you that if you see any article, go to the bottom of the article, you will see certain tags. That means, tags means important keywords which identify that article. Now use that keywords to find similar articles and similar data. Thank you very much. And I hope you will do some self-training. Lot of time is today available at home, and come up with some good insights for your businesses. Okay. Any question? Kindly share the, yes, you will get the presentation. Thank you very much, very much. And I am logging off now. Thank you,
Thank
AMA.
you.
Excellent
Thank you.
support you have provided, and
Thank,
we will meet again on the 16th.
thank you, sir. Thank you very much. See you. I think there's an audio problem with Abidi sir and my system. Thank you, all the participants. I have put a chat box. In the chat box, I have already put the feedback form link also. You may please take time and please send your feedback, any changes or anything you want to do, or any additional information if you want. Please send email to ama@amaindia.org and keep participating in our forthcoming webinars. Thank you very much. Have a nice day ahead. Bye.